Okay, we have gotten the clamp and the extension installed. So what I do is, this comes in the kit, which is from Central Tool, and I'll show you the whole kit. And this threads into this. This is a multi-adapter. And this clamp, you can actually clamp it onto something and put these in it as well. I like to use a rag on the surface of the painted area, and for one major reason is not to scratch the paint, number one, but it acts kind of like grit, and it keeps this from slipping off. If you just try and clamp it on the metal and the paint, it'll slip off. This is not perfectly square and flat. It's going to taper itself. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to try to measure that, the lower gear, which is the forward gear. So if I put my finger in there, you can hear the gear lash. All right, but what I need to do is I need to put this adapter on there. So what I'm going to do is loosen this up, raise it up, because I need to go down into the gear. You can't see it. I didn't drop it on the floor. Cool. And then you have one end here that has a hole in it and it grabs. And what I want to do is I am going to put this on here and slide it over, and I need to put it halfway up the gear tooth. So bottom out, come up to the top, kind of get an estimate how far in that is. Right, that's the top of the gear there. That's the bottom, so about halfway up. And then just lightly preload it so that you can snug this up. The washer fell off. Figures. All right, so there's a key slot in this for this washer. And if it's not lined up right, then you can't tighten it up, which is unfortunate. Once I get the washer lined up, I'll be all set. Okay. So the washer is actually keyed onto this. And once it's square to that, then you can tighten it down. So it takes a little finesse. All right, let's try this again. Okay, halfway up the gear teeth, and I want to be 90 degrees towards the gear tooth. All right. So let's see if I can get this where I want it. All right, halfway loaded. There. Now let's see what happens when I come around there. And you'll be able to see the indicator. I'm going to move you over a little bit so you can see the indicator and zoom in if I can. There it is. And then what I'm going to do is I need to reach in, and on the top of the cone, so I'm going to go on the other side, and I'm going to reach over here, and I'm just going to rock that back and forth. So when I get it to one position, zero the indicator, and then I'm going to read on the other side. So 7 thousandths, I think. Yep. So about 7 thousandths of an inch. And the book will tell you, I believe it's 6 to 12 or 6 to 11 thousandths. So the lower gear is important because it's the forward gear. Now I'm going to do the upper gear, which is the reverse gear. Now, if this is an SX drive, single prop shaft drive, not a DPS, then you can simply switch the cable from one side to the other, this bracket. And what that does is that shifts the drive into forward when you push the throttle, the shift lever forward, or if I reverse it, it's going to shift it into reverse. So basically what you can do is you can change the direction of the drive. These drives can be run in full forward with a lower gear, normally with DPS, or they can be run full forward in the upper gear on SX, all right? So that's in the book as well. It's not that hard to understand, but you just have to read it, and then it'll tell you where to put the cable. All right, so now I'm gonna take this off because I don't wanna drop it. That's bad. I won't drop the indicator, they're very expensive. Now I'm gonna swing this down so I can read the upper gear, okay? Which is the reverse gear. And now what I need to do is put this on here. And I'm gonna put it on the bottom so I can reach way up in there. All right. Now once I get this close, I'll come around the other side, and I'm gonna get it in there. We go. And then what I'll do is I'll get this up inside the top. The nice thing in the set that I did was I left it on this stand so I can raise it up. And that way you'll be able to kind of see what is going on in there. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to lower this down just a little. Not the easiest thing to do, but you'll get the feel for it. Maybe a little higher. Okay, so I'm going to get the indicator set up there, and then what I'll do is I will turn the light on so you can see it. And again, I want to be 90 degrees to the gear tooth and halfway. Let's see if it moves. Yeah, there it is. Okay. And I'll see if I can't get you a video of that way up in there a little bit. Let's try. I can turn a light on. That'll help a little bit. Right, so I'm inside the gear tooth. I'm going to try and manipulate my picture a little bit so you can kind of see where that is on the gear. Okay, there you go. So you can kind of see I'm on the concave side of the gear, halfway up it. And then I'll set you back into position. You can see the indicator. All right. I'm just going to reach up here with my finger and rock it. And then what I'm going to do is zero the indicator and see what we got. And you can do the math pretty readily. So you can really see it's probably about 8 thousandths to 9 thousandths, which is perfect, okay? So that's the idea of how you measure the gear lash. Now the drive's fully assembled, okay? So I've got it all back together. I've already, shimmed all my gears. I've shimmed the lower gear. I've gotten that measurement. I've got my upper gear measurement. I've done my top cover preload measurement, okay? That's that crush on the top bearing. I've torqued the top nut, and I've measured the height from that top nut down to the shaft. That's the play in the shaft that can go up and down a little bit. I've measured my pinion gear while it was out of the case, and I've shimmed that. So if you take your time and you measure everything, a lot of times when you put it back together like this, I just did all this, and it comes out right on the money. The only thing left I have to do is paint the gear teeth, which would be 3 teeth on the lower gear with marking compound, gear lube marking compound. And I'll grab that real quick and show it to you. Volvo Penta uses this stuff, which works pretty well. So this is This will last a lifetime. It's powder. It's yellow powder. I mix it with a little bit of oil. You could use Cure Lube, but I just use regular motor oil, a couple drops, get a nice thick paste, and then paint it on the gear teeth. As long as you don't use too much of it, you know, it doesn't make a mess, and they say you can leave it in the gear case. So you don't really have to wash it all out and take it all out. Yeah, so we've got a good drive here. We got it back together, looks good. Gear lash is correct. The last thing I have to do is check gear pattern. If the gear pattern's in range, then that means that this drive is ready to go back into service.